Welcome to another episode of Budget Hunter. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about the elk drawing coming up on June 2nd, so stay tuned. Alright, so on this episode, I'm going to talk about the breeds of elk that are available to hunt in California, the methods and the hunts that are available, and we're going to get into a little bit of detail about the different zones. So the first thing I want to cover is the different breeds of elk that are available in California. Something that's unique about California is that there's 3 different breeds of elk, and they really encompass the majority of what's available in the western United States. So there's 3 different breeds. The one that is specific to California that's very unique is the Tule elk. These elk tend to be a little bit smaller. The males are about 600 to 700 pounds. The female cows are typically around 400. And they are located in the central region of California, along with this area out here in the Owens Valley. And then also out here. So you have the central region up by the Bay Area, and then out in Owens Valley are most of where the Tule elk are located. The other breeds in California are the Roosevelt elk and the Rocky Mountain elk. Now, these aren't as prevalent, but as you move northern in the state, they are available. The largest of which is the Roosevelt elk. Now, the Roosevelt start in northern part of California and then go up through into Washington, and they're really dispersed just along these coastal states on the western side of America. Now, these elk are the largest available. The males can grow well over 800 pounds, where the Rocky Mountain elk are pretty much every elk. There was a delineation that was made that elk starting at the Mississippi line moving west would be classified as Rocky Mountain elk. Now, these elk have dispersed pretty much across the entire United States, and the males will grow to around 700 pounds. So they're between the Tule elk and the Roosevelt elk. Now, California doesn't make a distinction between the different breeds of elk when it comes to the price. If you are able to be drawn for an elk tag, it's $484 for a resident. Resident juniors get a huge discount, and non-residents are paying close to $1,500. There are no elk tags available over the counter in California, so you must apply through the Big Game Drawing on June 2nd, which is the deadline. The application to draw for a tag is $8.13, and your opportunity to be able to be drawn if you don't have points accumulated is well under 1%. Looking at some of the statistics from last year, you can see the tag quotas and then the total applications. Some of these, some of the apprentice huts have a little bit better odds, but then when you get into the archery, you have a little bit better. Muzzleloader sometimes a little bit better. But when you get into the general season, general method hunts, you're looking at the northwestern area. You have 1,200 applications for 15 tags, 400 applications for 3. You can sometimes get a little bit better odds, like this Siskiyou Antlerus was 300 applications for 20 tags available. That might be one of the best options if you just want to be able to go and do a hunt and you don't mind taking a cow. As I think about it for myself personally, if I'm going to do an elk hunt, and especially in California, spend close to $500, I want to be able to get as much meat as possible. And so if I was going to do an antlerless hunt, I would want to make sure it was for either a Roosevelt or a Rocky Mountain elk, because the Tule cows are not massive, and they are, out of all the options available, would be the smallest amount of meat. So these antlers are an option. And then you also have, as you go down, you can see how a lot of these hunts are actually broken up by different dates. So if you're interested to find out the information about a specific date for the hunts that are coming up for 2020, this is the 2019 harvest statistics. So what you have to do is go over to the main page for the elk seasons, the 2020 elk seasons off the wildlife website. Here what you'll see is in my opinion, it's just kind of a mess of all of the zones that are available. It doesn't seem to be organized by date, it's not organized by hunt code, and it's not organized by hunt location. A resource that I've found to be much more helpful than looking at this 2020 season page is to actually go back over to the Big Game Drawing book. And after you get through the maps that are available for pronghorn, elk, and bighorn sheep, you're then able to get to these 2020 proposed elk hunts. Now, the great thing about this is it breaks down the apprentice hunts, archery, muzzleloader, and then it classifies the hunts based upon the expected species in that region. So as you can see, up in the northern part of California, which is the Marble Mountains, northwestern hunts, Siskiyou, these are the Roosevelt hunts. Then as you move down a little bit further south, you have the Mendocino hunt, which could be Roosevelt or Toole. The Rocky Mountain are expected in northeastern California. And then the remainder of California is country for Toole elk. And so as you go over to the map, you'll see that regionally, the majority of the hunts that are available in California are Toole elk between this Owens Valley region and then the north central region. And your only opportunity to be pursuing after one of those really massive Roosevelt bucks or even the Rocky Mountain are going to be essentially starting from here, working your way up. And you have a lot of opportunity to either pursue after antlerus or a bull, and there are even some either sex hunts that are available. One other opportunity, which I discussed on my Big Game Drawing intro video, is the Owens Valley Any Zone tag. Just to show you where you can find that online. If you go over to the hunting license and fees, under the application for the drawing, there's also a random drawing that's available for $6.74. Now you can apply for as many of these as you want. They're essentially raffle tickets going into the die and drawing for only one tag. Now, if you do get that tag, you only pay the $6.74, and you do not have to pay the $484 for the typical elk tag, which is really a great deal. This tag is available for anything within the Owens Valley zone. So from 16 to 23, you can hunt any of those areas. And as you get into some of the detail of those Owens Valley hunts, you'll see that they are pretty segmented and cut up. And so if you were able to get that Owens Valley tag, it allows you to travel a good deal. And there's really, comparing the size of some of these like Independence or even the Bishop area compared to some of these, like the La Panza unit, you have so much more opportunity if you're able to get that Owens Valley tag to really go through this whole valley and try to find a Toole elk, because there's only estimated to be about 500 to 1,000 in this whole region. So the tags are very limited, and that might be your best bet. And so I would always recommend applying for that. Now, the last thing that I want to cover is something that's going to be a part of all of my videos on the Big Game Drawing, which is to say, if I don't have a bunch of points accumulated and I'm trying to find the best opportunity to maybe be able to get drawn in the random drawing, as a reminder, in California, for the elk, bighorn sheep, and pronghorn drawing, the tags are split up so that those with the max number of points are put into a random pool. In the case for these species, it's 75% of the tags go to the highest point holders in a random drawing for those point holders, where the remaining 25% of tags go into just a complete random drawing. So whether you had points or you don't have any points at all, you're put in that pool for 25% of the tags. The way it would work out in the case of California is that if you had one tag available, that would be a random tag, where if you had two tags available, you would have one for preference, one random, and then as you work your way up from there, it would be a 75%, 25% split. So as you look at the tag quota for some of these regions, you can see that there's a good number of preference points that are available, preference point tags, but there's also a good number of random drawing tags. In an area like the Marble Mountain, you might have one or two random tags that are given out. And here for the Marble Mountain Bowl, you could actually have, depending on how they cut it up, either 3 or 4 of those random tags available. Now remember, a lot of these are going to have somewhere in the range of 500 to 1,000 or more applicants. But if you have 4 tags available and you have 1,000 applicants, you have about a 1 in 250 shot of being able to get selected. So using some of the drawing statistics from last year, I always want to see what seems to be the best opportunity for that random drawing. So most of these hunts last year only had 1 random available, although some of them had 2. And then all the way into some of these Northern California hunts had 5, 8, 3, 5. So looking at those, what would have been your best opportunity? Well, for a bull hunt starting here, your best opportunity might have been the Siskiyou General Methods hunt for bull. There were 5 tags available, and there were less than 1,000 applicants. That puts you in that range of about 1 for every 200. And if you consider the applicants that were selected, it's a little bit less than 200, about 1 for every 90 to 95. Now, if you definitely do not have points available, items like the Grizzly Island hunts, this period 10 for some reason got so many applicants last year. And so you had almost 2,500 applicants, and there's only 3 tags available total and 1 random. This would not be one I would recommend. And a lot of those Grizzly Island hunts are just very, very difficult to be able to get selected for. Either sex hunts are also a good opportunity. You had up in the Marble Mountain area for muzzleloader or archery, if you're interested in archery hunt, you had 228 available and you had 2 random tags. So you had about a 1 in 100 chance of being able to be selected. And then if you do happen to have an apprentice with you who's going to be going on a hunt, it seems like the La Panza unit, period 1 was a good selector last year, contrasted with the Northeastern Apprentice Hunt, which had 518 applicants and only 1 random tag available. Eastern Sierras, you have the Owens Valley area. Then between essentially northern San Bernardino or Santa Barbara County all the way up to a portion of the Southern Bay area, you have the La Panza area, Fort Hunter, Leggett, San Luis Reservoir, Santa Clara, Alameda, and then Grizzly Island. Now, Grizzly Island is actually believed to be one of the original sources of Tule elk in the state of California, and the belief is actually that all of the Owens Valley Tule elk at one point migrated from Grizzly Island through the Sierras down and settled into this region. Then as you move up, move north of the Bay Area, you have this region that is referred to as the North Central region, from Cache Creek, Bear Valley, and then East Park Reservoir, Lake Pillsbury, and then Mendocino. And then bordering on that, you have the northern region, which is northwestern, Marble Mountain, Siskiyou, northeastern, and then that Mendocino area there. This region up here is where you get the majority of the Roosevelt elk and some of the Rocky Mountain elk that will travel back and forth between Northern California and Oregon, and even up here you have some that are maybe potentially traveling up into Idaho and then coming back down. So if you're interested in getting a massive bull that you're going to be able to get a lot of meat and maybe have just a beautiful, huge antler set, you're going to most likely want to be hunting in the northern region. So the last thing I would recommend here is just to pick the type of hunt that you want to do, whether that be antlerless, bull, or either sex. Pick the method that you want to hunt, and then focus in on maybe a particular region. From there, you can go through the different periods, zones. Some of the feedback that I've received and things I've heard and read is that as you move a little bit later into some of these seasons, you end up being a lot closer to the rut. Just the way Fish and Wildlife structures this is that a lot of these seasons start early. Some of them start even as early as August, which is really just super, super early to be able to be hoping to get in during the rut. Look for a tag in a season that's maybe a little bit more into October, into November. Review some of the statistics from last year, and you might be able to find a sweet spot of one that didn't get too many applications and that fits for you in a place where you're going to be able to get out there. Because the reality with this tag is a lot of these seasons are very short. There's not a lot of tags available, so you're going to have a lot of hunters going out around the same time, and you're probably going to want to dedicate 3 or 5 days or more to being able to get out, scout, and then be able to actually start the hunt once that particular time block begins. So again, my tip for strategy in approaching this is to first select your method, select the type of hunt you want to do, focus in on maybe a specific region, whether that be Owens Valley or the central region, or maybe up in Northern California going for a Roosevelt elk. And then from there, look at the dates for those seasons, compare that to the statistics from last year, and try to find a sweet spot of something in the October to November range to be able to put your name in for. And similar to the deer drawing, if you're not selected, you're going to be able to get a point. I absolutely recommend applying so that you can start building up those points for the elk hunt. Really appreciate you guys tuning in and look forward to the next video. Thank you.